Hello, everyone. Thank you for listening to Spooky Mountain. You have Steph and you have Jordi, and we hope that you enjoy this week's episode.
It's going to be a really good one.
It's going to be, I know my story. I'm so excited to tell my story this week.
I have no idea what yours is.
I don't know if you would have heard it. What's your, okay, I want to hear what yours is first.
So my one, all right. So, so this could be really funny. I think it is really funny, and it could be super light-hearted. Okay. Otherwise, it could be so fucking disturbing.
Oh,
There's
I hope
two
it's disturbing.
ways where you can look at it. I went into it like a really fun story, and then towards the end, I'm like, I actually really don't know what to think about this, and I'm really quite shook by it all.
I'm intrigued.
It's so strange. I'd be very surprised if you've heard about it.
Okay.
I only knew about this like a couple months ago.
I love funny stuff and I love disturbing stuff. So this may be the perfect story.
Okay. Yeah, it's really good. What about yours?
So my story this week is definitely it is absolutely the longest one that I've ever done. So I hope that it doesn't get too boring. But majority of the story is crazy stuff happening. It's not quite cryptid. It's almost monstery, like a bit monster creature thing that happened.
What the fuck?
I know. You may have heard of it, but I have a feeling that you haven't.
I really hope I haven't.
I love it when I get you.
I'm glad we started early tonight if you've got a long one. So.
Yeah, I know. I'm already bloody tired. So by the end of it, poof.
Hell yeah.
I'm going to be passing out.
Well, just a reminder, everyone, that if you want to support us, we have a Patreon. That is how we make our money. And we put a lot of exclusive stuff on there. We've got videos, we do blog posts, we have a private Discord group as well. But yeah, it's the best way to support us. So the link for that is in the description of the show notes.
Yes.
And otherwise, if you'd like to just leave us a review or a rating, that really helps us a lot as well.
Yep, all those things help us. And just to let you know that with our Patreon, the money that we do get from our patrons goes straight back into the podcast.
Oh, yeah.
So we use it for our fees, our service fees. We use it for equipment. We use it for it doesn't just like go into our pockets.
Yeah, we're hoping to get a new like microphone upgrade soon.
Yeah,
that would be so good.
And just, put it into making new content and exciting content. But yeah, also we're pretty much active mainly on Instagram and Facebook. We post a lot of shit on Instagram. So follow us there if you want to kind of keep updated with what we're doing. We also have a website, which on our website you can find all our other platforms and information and contact and stuff. But you can also contact us on our email, which is spookymountainpodcast@gmail.com. And we also have a speak pipe, which is just a little voice message thing that you can leave us. And that's
we love speak pipe messages.
Yes,
so
we love our speak pipe messages. They're so fun to listen to.
Yeah.
So if you really want to tickle us fancy, leave us a speak pipe message. Do any of those things and we'll be very, very happy.
With your best Australian accent.
Oh, yes, that's right. Speak pipe messages are only in your best Australian accent.
Yeah, we want to hear them.
We want to hear them. So how has your past week been?
My week, it's been all right. It's been pretty relaxed. Just a lot of gardening.
Awesome.
My garden's going nuts at the moment. I've got like 1,000 eggplants growing, 1,000 green beans growing. Yeah, I've had an eggplant. Well, I've got like 9 eggplant plants.
Wow.
And then the eggplant itself, there's like, I don't know, maybe like 15 growing at the moment.
That is
it's crazy. Yeah. So I'm going to have like an influx of just eggplants and then also green beans at the moment. It's just insane.
Beans always grow so well.
That's the first time I've ever grown them, and I swear to God, it just grew so fast. It was insane. And then the beans appeared, and now I'm like a bit overwhelmed because I bought like 10 plants because I'm an idiot.
Oh, so you're just going to have like too many beans. Well, I wonder what a really good bean meal is.
Please tell me.
I don't know. I don't really eat beans.
I'm going to start selling them on Marketplace.
Sell them. Sell them on Etsy.
Yeah, I totally could. I don't know what else to do with them. I'm like, there's only so much I could do with beans. Like, I think I'm just going to maybe do one plant next time. If I get overwhelmed, I buy a packet of seeds, like 15 seeds. I'm like, all right, just plant them all.
All of them. I'm pretty sure it's beans. It could be something else, but pretty sure with beans, they're really good to plant next to other like vegetables and stuff because they send out, nitrogen to the other plants.
Oh, yes.
So they kind of help
with
the
my
other plants grow.
snap peas, the sugar snap peas, I remember. So I guess it probably, peas, beans. Yeah.
Same shit, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah.
Might be wrong about that, but
things, yeah.
Who knows? Well, I did something very exciting this past weekend. Yeah, something that you are going to just love.
What did you do?
So it was my boyfriend's birthday.
Okay, yeah.
We went out to lunch and we also went out to a VR experience.
Oh my God.
Oh yeah, baby. We've been to VR before, but
I haven't never done
You've never
VR.
done it? Oh,
no.
Steph.
I think I'd throw up though, to be honest. Like I think I'd get really nauseous.
If you have a sensitive tummy, then yeah, you could get a bit of motion sickness. We've done VR before, but we did a VR escape room in the past.
Oh, that would be so fun.
It was fantastic. This VR that we did a few days ago, it was an arena VR. So it was just us two.
Right.
But we could walk around and we both had 2 guns each and we had the headset on. What? And we had a vest on and a backpack and it was a zombie game.
What the?
Oh my God.
Where was this?
It was just in Penrith. It was one of the best things I've experienced. So it was super realistic. After maybe like 1 minute of the game starting, I was thinking to myself, I don't know if I can do this because it was just so terrifying because you have these zombies coming at you and you can move around, so you can walk around to try and like...
So are you actually walking?
Yes, you're walking. You're walking in the VR game and you're walking in real life.
That is so weird.
It's crazy. And these zombies start coming at you and it is super realistic and it's so overwhelming. And the vest that you're wearing, it's like an impact vest. So you can feel things
That's too real,
touching you. But the scariest part is that in part of the game, you have to walk on like steel beams and stuff that it looks like you're hundreds of meters off the ground.
Even you just saying that, my body just jolted.
Oh, you
I
have
had
a fear of heights. I forgot. I'm sorry.
That would scare the fucking shit out of me.
I don't think you could do it, Steph. I don't
think I know I couldn't. Yeah. I mean, that sounds really fun, but like...
It's fantastic. Yeah, it's really great, but it's very, very hard. It's very hard to kind of detach from reality and the game. So you know that you're not going to fall, but your brain is also telling you that you are absolutely going to fall down.
Yeah.
You know, and it was fantastic. I highly recommend people really going fun. And doing this. Yeah. And
I've got to immerse myself a bit more in things. Like I think the first thing, oh my God, this is so funny. So when I went to Scotland, it was a Loch Ness Monster Museum.
Oh yeah.
In was it? I think it was in Edinburgh somewhere. It was like this tiny little shop. It just looked like a shop. And I was like, oh, okay. And I went in there and it was really not impressive at all. There was like a couple of like, keychains and like fluffy toys. And then there was a door behind the desk and it said 3D Loch Ness experience. And I was like, oh, hell yeah. I want to go in there. I went in there. It's a full cinema. No one else is in, like there's no one else in there. And I got a ticket. And he came and sat down as well because he closed the shop to like play the movie.
So it was just you and him.
Yes.
Cute.
Yes. And the thing was that it wasn't the movie that played. I mean, it went for like maybe 20 minutes. It wasn't designed really to be for 3D. It looked 3D? Like it was a documentary from like the 90s where they just put this like blue and red, you know, that filter to kind of make it look. Yeah. And I was like, what is going on? So and you have like the 3D glasses on still as well, and you're going, this is really bad. And it was just terrible. Like talking about like how deep the Loch Ness monster like the loch is and everything. So it's just like information. And I was like, okay, but I was like, this is really not what I expected.
Did you have to like pretend that it was great because you were next to the guy that was running it?
I felt so bad. I was like, that was really interesting. That was really fun. Thank you so much. I'm going.
That sounds so bad. So no. Imagine a VR Loch Ness experience. That would be awesome.
I would, like you're riding Nessie or something.
You're just riding around like GTA, but
yes. Oh, hell yeah. There needs to be like a cryptid video game or something where you can actually, you know, train their little cryptids. I think I'd probably have a Nessie.
Yeah, Nessie. Or Nessie or like although Wendigo isn't really cryptid.
Yeah, there's or Dogman because he goes on all fours and runs really fast. Just put a saddle on him and he's like, just
Chupacabra,
like crazy
maybe
freak. Yeah.
Well, because I do have. Sorry. Before we go into our stories, we do actually have to mention one more thing that we do have. Sorry, we got carried away with our chit chatting. We have a new patron. Taylor is our new patron, so thank you so much, Taylor. We appreciate your support so much.
Thank you so much. Yeah, that was a really nice surprise for us
to find
having another patron. So I sent you some information, so let us know if you've got any issues. But we really appreciate you signing up. So thank you so much.
Yes, we want to chat with you on the Discord.
Yeah. Get amongst the Discord. Yeah, I think I'll get into my story.
Yes. I'm excited.
Yes. So this is going to be a really fun and weird one.
A fun and disturbing one.
Yeah. It's very strange. So I did originally go into this one thinking it was a cryptid because I remember telling you my hint. I was like, yeah, I'm going to do a cryptid. But honestly, I don't know. I don't know what this is.
Okay.
So this whole story, it all comes down to two children who had a strange encounter, and what they saw and spoke with is something like we have never heard of before.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, how weird. Okay.
It's such a strange thing that they saw. Well, it's such a strange thing that they saw. I automatically thought it was a cryptid.
Right.
Just hearing the description of it. But it could also be an alien. It could be a human in a costume. It could be a joint hallucination.
What the fuck?
Or just their imagination because they're kids as well. So there's so many ways.
Hooked already.
Yeah. So it all begins in 1973 on the Isle of Wight. The two children, both aged 7, were with their families on a vacation at Lake Common in Sandown. This place is a cute little seaside town surrounded by classic UK farms. And the kids, so both a boy and a girl, they were exploring the area near Lake Common. And at around 4 p.m, they started to hear what sounded like a siren or an eerie wailing noise that was coming from the distance.
Oh, no. It's Siren Head. Do you know Siren Head?
Oh, yeah, I know Siren Head. Oh, yeah, it's all Siren Head. Oh, my God. So they reported it to sound sort of like an ambulance siren, but a little bit more eerie.
Okay.
If that makes sense. They They, of course, were intrigued by the noise, so they started to make their way towards it, marching through a golf course, pushing their way through hedges and gardens until they reached a marsh-like area just near the airport. When they got to the marsh, the siren had stopped, so they decided to explore this new area. They noticed a small little creek that ran through with a little wooden bridge that went over.
Mm-hmm.
As they got closer to the bridge, a hand with 3 fingers and wearing a blue glove started to rise up from under the bridge.
Oh, hell no.
They then saw that the hand belonged to a very odd-looking being and he was holding a book. This is what the kids described they saw that day.
Oh, my God.
He was nearly 7 feet tall.
Oh, shit.
And had
he was tall.
no neck. Oh, yeah.
Oh, my God. Okay, yeah, this is disturbing already.
He's very big.
Yeah.
He had no neck, or his head appeared to be wedged straight onto his shoulders. He wore a yellow pointed hat, which interlocked with the red collar of a green tunic.
Okay.
A round black knob was affixed to the top of his hat, and a wooden antenna were attached to either side.
Oh, so it's an elf with antennae.
The face had triangular markings for eyes,
Oh, my
a brown
God.
square for a nose, and motionless yellow lips. Other round markings were on his paper white cheeks, and a fringe of red hair fell onto his forehead. Wooden slats protruded from his sleeves and from below his white trousers.
Oh, my God. This is definitely a mix of funny and disturbing.
Yeah. So I'm going to send you a picture of it, Jordi, because I encourage everyone right now to look at the social images so you get an idea of what this thing looks like.
I'm kind of scared to look at it. I feel like it's going to creep me out a little bit.
No, you'd think that, but
it's funny. Oh, yeah, it is kind of like it looks like a, what is it called? Like a marionette almost. Like, what are those puppets? Like dancing puppets
it's
on
very,
strings.
Yeah.
Not super creepy, not as creepy as what I thought.
It's not creepy. Yeah, so the way they describe it, but when you actually look at the image itself, it's like, oh, okay. I understand what they're looking at now. It's not too bad, but it's still super, super odd.
Yes.
So this freaky creature, it looked at them and took a step out from under the bridge. Its clothes looked very tattered, and it seemed to fumble a bit with this book, and then he dropped it into the water. He spent quite a while trying to fish it out of the stream, apparently. Once he picked the book up, he started to do this hopping-like movement with his knees raised really high and made his way over to a small metal hut that had no windows.
Okay. Is this
what
where
a
he
sentence
lives?
that is, right? That was a mouthful of a sentence because it's so odd.
It is pretty strange. The creepiest
really
part
strange.
so far is definitely the hand coming up.
With the blue glove.
Yes.
Yeah, it's fucking weird. So the kids watched as he went inside the metal hut and closed the door. A few seconds later, the creature emerged from the hut, now holding a black microphone with a white cable. And that's when the siren noise started again.
Oh, that's what is making the noise. Okay.
This time it was so loud for the kids that they actually started to run away as fast as they could.
I'm surprised they stuck around for this long in the first place.
Children. I don't understand.
Fucking weirdos.
But as the kids were running, the siren noise stopped and they heard a kind of voice that said, "Hello, are you still there?"
No, stop it. No, that's so fucking scary.
The children described this voice as sounding like it was right next to them, even though they knew it was coming from the creature with the microphone, which was quite far away at this point. So this is where most of us are thinking, look, fuck that. this is terrifying.
Yes.
I'm going home.
Yeah, get the fuck out of there.
Yeah, we all grew up with stories about trolls under bridges, people that kidnap children, stranger danger. So, you'd think that these kids would think they're not safe in the situation.
You would think so.
Yeah, but, we're in the 70s here, so they didn't really have that type of reality brought to their attention yet. These kids honestly thought that the creature sounded very kind and friendly. So they turned around and they walked back to find it.
Oh, what are you doing, children?
Mm-hmm. He was standing right where they left him, right in front of the metal hut. As they approached, it took out a notebook and wrote large letters all over the page in no particular order. It then pointed to the letters in order for the children to read out loud. The girl ended up reading out, "Hello, I am all colours Sam."
Oh my fucking God, no.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, that
This is the
really
scariest
scared
story
me.
that you've told. This is the most disturbing story that you have told so far. And you've told some fucked up stories.
No way. Yeah, that really fucking freaked me out when I read that. I'm like, oh, that makes me feel really gross. It's really gross. So his name's Sam. So the creature Sam then put the microphone down and started to talk without it, although its yellow mouth did not move.
Fucking
The
Sam.
children described it as sounding muffled, like a person who tries to talk with their lips closed.
What if there's someone inside of Sam?
Yeah, I mean,
Could be.
they could be. They could be. They then started to have discussions about each other. Sam would ask them stuff about them and vice versa. The children asked why his clothes it was wearing was all tattered. Sam replied, "I only have one set of clothes to wear." This is the voice I'm assuming it has.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. The children asked if it was a man. Sam replied, "No." They asked if it was a ghost. He replied, "Well, not really, but I am in an odd sort of way."
Oh, what
Which
the
is fucking
fuck?
terrifying.
Yes.
The children then asked, "Well, if you aren't a man and you aren't a ghost, then what are you?" Sam replied, "You know." It then said...
That's it? Just
Yep.
you know?
It just says, you
I was
know.
waiting for more.
I know.
Oh, okay.
No, I know. This is where we're at. I don't know what the fuck it is. He then said that he stays far away from people and tries to hide, as he is scared people might try to attack him. He also said to the children that he isn't the only one, and there are many more like him. He then drew a picture of one of the others in his little book, which is kind of creepy.
Yes.
A strange thing the children noted about this encounter is that while all this was happening, there were two workmen nearby working on a fence post, and they acted like Sam and the children were not even there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Sam then asks the children if they would like to come inside the hut. And of course, they were like, yeah.
Stranger danger. Stranger danger. This is a red flag.
So yeah, they entered the hut. They had to crawl through a little flap on the side. The children said that on the inside, it was split into two levels. On the ground floor, the walls were covered in a bluish-green wallpaper that had a pattern that looked like dials. There was some very basic wooden furniture and a strange type of electric heating device. On the upper floor, they said it was much more cramped and it had a metal floor. Once they were all upstairs, Sam removed his clown-like hat to reveal he had patchy brown hair and round white ears.
Oh, no. But he's kind of like semi-wooden as well.
Yeah, oh, his clothes are wooden.
His clothes are
which
wooden.
has got and then white skin.
Yeah,
like
that's
white,
and little ears as well.
and triangle eyes. It's so I hate everything about it.
Yeah, fuck this guy.
Every single thing about it is terrifying. Sam would tell the children he would live off the berries in the bushes nearby, and he drank water from the stream once he had cleaned it. He mentioned as well that he also had another location he stays at, like a camp on the mainland where he goes to visit sometimes. Because this is the Isle of Wight, so if you're not sure what the Isle of Wight is, it's a very, very large island just off the coast of the UK. So where mainland he's talking about, England. Sam then thought he would show the kids a fun little magic trick. He had a berry from outside and he placed it inside his ear. He then jolted his head forward, which caused the berry to vanish from his ear and appear in his strange triangle eye. He then thrusted his head again and it showed up in his mouth. The kids seemed to have a great time with him. They actually stayed for another 30 minutes, all just chatting, just hanging out.
Playing tricks.
They were having a really good time. But then eventually they ended up having to say their goodbyes. The children left the hut, ran across the golf course towards Lake Common. As the children were heading back home, they told the first adult that they saw what they had just seen. They said that they saw a ghost. But of course, the person just laughed and rolled their eyes. Obviously, this would have discouraged the children, so they didn't actually talk about this encounter until about 3 weeks later. The girl told her father first. As you would expect, he naturally thought this was a fun story she made up, or as a game that they were playing. It could have been her imagination as well.
Yeah, because it sounds like that.
She's a 7-year-old, you're just like, oh, okay, sure.
And it does sound like a kind of childish being, like
yes,
colourful and wooden clothes.
Yeah, the way they describe it, but then they call it a ghost.
A ghost as well.
It's like, that literally makes no sense, but okay. Now, the daughter was very insistent that this actually happened. And she provided so much detail that the father started to really reconsider if she was telling the truth.
Okay.
With all the information he had from his daughter, he went to speak with the boy who she was with. And he was actually starting to think, look, there is actually some truth to this story. The boy he spoke to explained the exact same details.
The exact same.
Yeah, confirmed, like, this is fact. This definitely happened.
Right.
But the boy was very hesitant at the start to talk about it. But once he did, he got the ball rolling and,
Confirmed.
Absolutely confirmed it. So the father actually wrote down the encounter and sent it to the BUFORA journal, which stands for the British UFO Research Association. The story was published in the 1978 edition. For me personally, I would have probably done the same thing, reach out to like a UFO organisation. But it is interesting that the father did this, as the kids did describe it as a ghost or a strange-looking man in a costume. Not really an alien. However, if we backtrack a few years before this whole incident happened, the girl's father has actually had some encounters himself.
Oh, okay.
3 years before this all happened, in 1970, the father was driving his car at 7 p.m. With a river to his right, he looked over and he could see a huge craft that looked like a ring with 7 bright lights.
Wow, hectic.
Each of them looked like bright red defined spheres. The craft was hovering over the river and near Bembridge Downs, which is actually, this place is only a couple miles from where the kids saw Sam.
Wow, it's all so close by.
Very, very close. He started to drive off and the craft would just follow him, staying parallel the whole time. The closer he got into town, the craft would get lower to the ground and it slowly started to shrink from 7 to 4 lights. He then got out of his car and he actually started to wave a torch, signaling the craft, and it seemed to respond to the light, and it was like moving in the direction, which we've heard before.
Yes.
Where people have moved their lights and the craft was moving as well.
Yeah, yep, totally.
So he was doing that for like 10 minutes and he was like, all right, this is cool, but yeah, I'm getting back in my car. He drove to his friend's house who lived nearby. His friend got out of the house and was like, yep, I can see it.
They can still see it. It's still
you can still see it. It later disappeared. But after that encounter, he would constantly see this red light in the sky. And he said it looked like it was following him or watching him all the time. A couple years later, he had another experience when he was at Compton Bay on the coast of Isle of Wight. It was quite late, around 9 to 10 p.m., and the tide had come in quite fast, which led him to being trapped on the cliffs. He then noticed that this was actually caused by something that was under the water. There was a large craft underneath the ocean that had a strange droning type noise.
Oh, what is it? Not a USO.
USO.
USO. Yeah, wow.
Yeah,
okay.
Unidentified submerged object.
Yeah.
So he said that there were two bright yellow lights emitting from underneath that looked like it had eyes, like the craft had big eyes. And as the craft disappeared, the tide went back out as normal, and he quickly got out of there, went home, and didn't tell anyone what he had seen. So I think it's very interesting that the daughter and the little boy both had this encounter while not even knowing what the father experienced, and so close in the same location.
Close proximity, yeah.
Would it all be related? We don't know there. But these days we consume so many different types of stories and folklore that it's a bit easier for us to accept these stories. But for these kids, the way they describe it, it honestly sounds like an alien robot clown. Like, it's so strange. But she calls it a ghost.
That is a really strange aspect to it, is that she calls it a ghost.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, she keeps referring to, because I think when they were asking questions, she didn't know what else to say. Like, she was like, "Oh, are you a ghost?" Like, she didn't ask, like, "Oh, are you an alien?" Or are you? It's like, I don't think she really had much else to reference.
No,
really?
And I suppose being that age, you're just like, "Oh, are you a ghost? Are you a ghost?"
Yeah.
And then the creature.
But she knows what a ghost is. Like, she knows clearly what a ghost is. So I think it is a little bit strange there. But also, it does have a lot of. This does have a lot of elements of an alien abduction. Although this is coming from a kid's mind, so I think it is a given that it could be told in a different. If it was told in a different way, it could come off in a.
Yeah.
It's so hard because they both told the exact same story. So I don't want to dismiss what they experienced, but it is very strange because obviously we've never heard anything like this before.
No, it's very unique.
But now I don't know if I've mentioned this before on the show. I'm not sure. But there was this TV show I used to watch called Taken, which was about alien encounters. It was just a TV show. And the aliens could change the way they looked to try and get people to come into their craft willingly.
This is just what I was thinking. Like, maybe it's some kind of alien that can adjust itself to become more palatable.
That's right. Yeah. So, for example, one of the episodes I watched, it made itself look like a chipmunk that the kids knew from their books, and the craft was actually the treehouse that the chipmunk lived in.
Right.
So the kids thought that they were dreaming, and they were like, "Oh, I know the chipmunk, blah blah blah," and then the kids just followed straight into the hut.
Yes.
Yeah. So with this story, I think that it could be. I think that's probably the closest of what I could think of. Like, maybe it morphed itself.
Totally.
But also it's weird because the way they described the inside of the hut, they said that the wallpaper had patterns that looked like dials, which I don't think kids even knew back then what a wall of technology would look like. And even the heater device, they know what a heater is, but they said it was a strange heater device. They weren't really too confident to call it a heater because they would have just said heater. So something seems odd in that little hut thing. But it is funny when they talk about the wooden furniture, the tattered clothes, and he was hiding under a bridge. I mean, that part just sounds like it's a really weird person that's dressed up.
Yeah, like a predator or something. It's just like lurking under the bridge.
Yeah. But then again, he can do magic tricks. He can make really scary siren noises.
Yeah, what the fuck
and
is with
he
that?
has 3 fingers and 3 toes.
It's so creepy.
So I think it's a bit more relieving to actually think that this is a creature from a different world or dimension than actually thinking it's a human luring children with his microphone.
Yes.
But yeah, that's the story of Sam the Sandown Clown.
There's so much to consider. I definitely think that, because it is very, very different, but it does kind of remind me of, like, say, the Grinning Man. Yeah. And it's like, why is he grinning? Or maybe it's like an alien that somehow thinks that grinning is going
a way to communicate and get you to do things for it. Yeah.
I definitely think that, if anything, it is some kind of species of, like, alien. And
yes,
it is
I think so too.
Mimicking like children. Oh, puppets play tricks, you know, that kind of thing. It's so
strange. And also because they said it was talking but its mouth wasn't moving.
Oh, that's fucking weird.
Which is very common with aliens.
Oh, true. Okay.
When you think of greys, when you think about greys.
Yeah. And there was a UFO thing seen very close by. It's funny how islands like this seem to have just always like a weirdness, like a strangeness, I guess. There's always
and near the water as well.
Near the water. Yep.
Yeah. It's very close to the water. It's like a seaside town, so it's right next to all of that. But yeah, I mean, it's so strange because it's like, I knew kind of a little bit about the Sandown Clown. I was like, oh, this has got to be like some weird cryptid or something like that. But the more I read about it, I was like, I don't even know. I don't even know what's going on.
I think, you're right. Like, it is easier, it's nicer to think that this is an alien, just making itself look nicer for the kids, as opposed to it actually, that's what it is. Like a weird kind of creature that does exist, and that's just what it looks like. Because
he said there's more of them as well. He's like, I'm not the only one. Like, there's more of me.
And what was his microphone doing?
Oh my God, I have no idea.
I wonder if it was some kind of like a mind control device or something. I don't know.
It could have been.
And, that's very, very strange. There's also just the aspect of all of these descriptions are being described by children, and their vocabulary and kind of thought process are quite different to what an adult would be. So
because it's hard. Like, even with the drawings that we've got, like, I don't know if they've had a kid like them look at that and be like, oh yeah, that's what I saw. Because when you think about, when they say triangle eyes, when we think about like a grey's eyes, they are huge bug-like eyes. They could have looked at it at that point as well.
A kid could.
It's strange. There's so much to go off it. It's very odd. Yeah.
And it's so easy to just pass it off as like, oh, they're just kids with like a wild imagination, but that's not really doing them a service. And, you know, I think it's not fair to just kind of pass it off as that.
Oh, for sure.
You know, I love that one. That was definitely fun, funny, and disturbing for sure.
Very entertaining, that one.
Very, very entertaining. Well, mine is just plain scary.
I am so excited.
I'd actually never really heard of this story until I was just like looking through my list of things that I could do for this week. And this story is the first story, or at least the first story in a very long time, where I got goosebumps like watching videos and reading about it. It made me feel very, very creeped out, and it kind of made me feel like I had to like look over my shoulder a little bit.
Okay, so, well, I'm glad Dylan's home tonight so I can go to sleep knowing I'm safe, I guess.
It's
I guess, I don't know what it's about though, so
it's a long one, but it's very interesting. So my story tonight is based in Palmyra in the state of Maine in America. But the story doesn't begin in Palmyra. The beginning of the timeline starts outside of Palmyra, but still within the state of Maine in America.
Okay.
There was a man named Eric Martin who had been working at the local paper mill for 20 years, give or take. But one day at work, he severely injured his back, causing him to have to quit his job and stay unemployed because he basically just had to go on like disability.
Damn.
This meant that his wife, Shelley Martin, had to find a job to be able to support her husband as well as her daughter, Chelsea, who still lived with them. They had another kid, Sean, but he had already moved out. Shelley hadn't worked for a number of years, as Eric was the one to really be the breadwinner. And she was the one that would stay home and look after the house and the family. And because Shelley hadn't worked for so long, she had a bit of a hard time finding a job.
Oh, yeah, I bet.
Especially a job that would support her whole family. But eventually she was hooked up with some work from an old connection in her hometown of Palmyra. And I have to apologise, I've still kind of got no voice from being sick, so I'm trying to not sound as croaky as possible. So Palmyra, it's quite a rural area with a lot of thick, dense forest and dark dirt roads. The population of Palmyra is around 1,900 people over an area. It's a small town, and that's over an area of about 200 acres, which is about 80 hectares.
Right.
The family decided that they were going to move to this town to be close to Shelley's new job. So they sold their house that they'd been living in for many years and found a house in Palmyra that actually ended up being a larger property than their old house. And they bought this for less money as well, so it worked out well.
All right, hell yeah.
Yeah, going good so far. They landed themselves a huge, beautiful old farmhouse that had a wraparound veranda and a barn, and the house itself was multi-level, so it was quite a large house. Along with the house came a whole bunch of acreage that included really beautiful but very dense forest areas that essentially surrounded the property 360 degrees. To get to the house, you had to drive down a narrow gravel access road before even reaching the driveway, in which the driveway itself was quite a trek before even reaching the house.
They're quite isolated, this house.
It's so isolated. Yeah, exactly. So safe to say they had no close neighbours and, just very, very isolated on their property. So when the family finally started to move into their new house, they're in their home starting to unpack boxes and whatnot when Eric pulls out one of his many rifles that he owns. He was absolutely a gun enthusiast. He came from a long line of hunters and he was very obsessed and very good at hunting. Yet Shelley was very, very apprehensive about Eric's gun collection, and she told him that she absolutely did not want these guns to be in the house. And she said that he was to lock them up in a case in their barn instead.
Yeah.
Shelley, she just really didn't feel safe with the guns in the house, especially with Chelsea around. So ultimately, Eric agreed to keep his guns in it's what's called a strong case in the barn. Right. And his son, Sean, had actually come up to their home to help him build this.
Okay.
Eric made sure that this case was always securely locked, as well as the barn being also securely locked. So it meant these guns were nice and safe, but it also meant that they weren't readily available at a moment's notice.
Oh yes, good point.
Yeah, they're quite locked away. So after the family had all moved into their home and then they'd been living there for about a year, Shelley and Eric started this nice little ritual at nighttime after the end of their day, and they would just sit on their front porch together, drinking coffee, chatting, and just kind of facing out to the darkness of their property. It was around early 2006 that one night, Shelley and Eric were drinking their nighttime coffee on the front porch when Shelley thinks she sees something strange out in the forest in front of their property.
Fucking hell. Okay.
Yeah. Just remember that their acreage is extremely isolated with not even cars passing by. And even if there were cars passing by, it would be too far from the road to even see any lights going by. And just to get a sense of what the front of the property looks like, in front of their porch, they had what was kind of like a gravel parking area. And to the left of their house, about 20 meters away, was their barn. And in front of their house and the barn is a huge open and clear field, which has absolutely no trees and shrubs. Then beyond the field is where the dense forest tree line starts. So it was a couple of 100 meters in front of the porch in the forested area that Shelley started to see really strange lights appearing. She described them as like pulsing orbs. She said they didn't look like flashing lights or headlights from a car going by. They were very obviously soft pulsing orbs going in and out.
Okay.
Eric also started to see these lights, and he immediately presumes that there's a poacher on the property that is hunting illegally. He decided to go get his son Sean, who was staying the night with them, to accompany him out into the area where the lights were to confront this possible poacher. They figured that they could just walk down to the edge of where the forest starts, close to where the lights were, and yell out into the forest something along the lines of, hey, this is private property, you can't be here.
Yeah.
And hopefully this would just potentially scare anyone away.
Yeah.
As Eric and Sean get closer and closer to the forest line, they start to see these strange lights begin to fade away backwards, further into the forest, and kind of just disappear. So Eric and Sean think that this apparent poacher has just started to walk further away because they've heard them come closer.
Yeah, right.
But Eric and Sean decide to go further into the forest just in case this poacher is still around.
Oh.
Yeah. And they were just going to yell about a little bit more just in case this person is still lingering, and this might make sure that they just don't linger. So the two start to make their way into the dense forest where there are no walking trails or pathways. This area is thick with tree limbs and vines, and they essentially have to bush bash through this forest. They make their way approximately 10 to 15 meters into the woods when Eric and Sean start to hear what sounds like someone walking parallel to them, approximately 10 meters away on their left. This sounded like big footsteps crunching down on twigs and leaves. Their first thought was that they were being stalked by some kind of animal, which can be quite common in this area with the presence of bears and such. But this unnerved them quite a bit. And they decided that because they couldn't see these lights anymore, they were just going to turn around and head back to the house. They didn't want to risk an animal attack out there in the woods.
Yeah.
So now it's about a month later, and it's a surprisingly lovely sunny day, which doesn't happen often in Maine, which is known for being quite dreary and gloomy. Chelsea, the daughter, and her boyfriend Nathan, who was staying with the family at the farmhouse at this time, decided that they'd take advantage of the sunshine and take a walk with their 2 dogs through the woods on the property. So Chelsea and Nathan, along with the 2 dogs, walk across the open field and into the forest, which was the same area that Shelley and Eric saw the lights.
Okay.
At first, the 2 dogs were being walked through the forest, secured on a leash. But then as they got further into the woods, they let the dogs off the leashes. The second both dogs were let off the leash, they absolutely beelined together for about 100 meters before they suddenly came to a complete dead stop and began staring something down.
Oh.
Which is quite unnerving.
Fuck that, yeah.
When Chelsea and Nathan caught up to them, they saw that the dogs had stopped in front of this big mound that almost looked like a den. It was made from grass, twigs, moss and branches, even large pieces of wood.
Wow.
The way it looked was almost like one of those art pieces where it's almost like little huts and stuff bent into circle shapes.
Oh, right.
With like sticks and stuff like that. But this was more crude and with larger bits of tree. It looked like a very intentionally made mound that did also have a circle entry point.
Yeah.
The dogs seemed extremely unnerved by this mound, sniffing at it and generally acting extremely skittish. And Chelsea and Nathan were equally as confused by what they were looking at.
Yeah.
They weren't sure if this was maybe made by a hunter or a camper, perhaps. When they tried to look down into the den that did also kind of go into the ground, it was too dark to see anything at all. But Nathan did think that he heard a deep growling coming from down in the structure.
Right.
Instantly, Chelsea and Nathan decided they needed to get the fuck out of there and make their way back to the house because they felt like this thing was just not right.
Oh, my God.
At least, they thought it was maybe an animal den and that animal could be dangerous. This is now the second time that the family has experienced a weird, what seems like a possible animal encounter, with Eric and Sean thinking that they were being stalked that night in the woods, being the first time.
Oh, fuck. By this point, I'd put barbed wire around the entire fucking forest.
Around the whole fucking place.
And just have spotlights around.
Oh, yeah. All over the... Yeah, totally. It'd be pretty scary. So a couple of months go by and Eric and Shelley are on their front porch again, drinking their coffee and chit-chatting as they do in the evenings. They both commented on how that night felt really eerie with a low fog hanging over their property area. And that was when they realised that it wasn't just the feeling that was off. They noticed that there was absolutely no sound occurring around them as well.
Oh.
Usually there would be humming of insects, sounds of animals and whatnot. But this night there was nothing, and this really creeped them out.
For sure. That would be so unsettling because it'd be like when it's that quiet, your ears ring as well. Like it's just not normal.
No, especially when you're used to your background sounds.
Yeah, you know what's going on.
Yeah.
The noises that happen.
Exactly. Shelley decided that she would run into the house and grab a high-powered torch that she could use to scan the property and just to have a look around. She wasn't looking for anything in particular, but just generally looking to see if she could just spot anything. But she didn't see anything, so she just put her torch down. Eric said that when Shelley put that torch down, he was suddenly hit with an overwhelming feeling that something was wrong and they were in serious danger. He told Shelley that he didn't know what it was, but they had to go inside right away. Shelley kind of fought him on this, thinking that he was just being dramatic. But Eric was absolutely adamant and very panicky at this point that they needed to stop fucking around and get inside straight away.
Holy shit, that's fucking so scary.
I know. It was like,
get the fuck inside now.
We need to get inside. Now. It got to a point where Eric kind of just ended up grabbing Shelley to try and push her inside. And Shelley's just getting frustrated by this point and she's fighting against him. And that's when Shelley just stops dead in her tracks as if she's frozen. Then Shelley said, "Did you hear that?" Eric knew right then and there that whatever it was that Shelley heard, it was the reason for him feeling such an extreme and overwhelming sense of danger only moments before. Shelley and Eric instinctively turned to face the open field and forest, with Shelley slowly picking up the high-powered torch from before. She shined it towards the tree line and started scanning the area. She gets about halfway across the tree line, which was directly in front of them, and suddenly her torch shines onto something. They could see, in the light of the torch, 3 large creatures that looked almost like wolves, but absolutely massive.
3?
3 of them. So these creatures, they were way larger than even a large regular wolf. But they also looked quite different to wolves, despite being wolf-like. The 3 creatures were then joined by 2 others, and all 5 of these creatures were just sitting perfectly still in a perfect line, and they were staring directly at Eric and Shelley.
No.
Yes.
No.
Yes.
Okay.
Shelley whispers to Eric, "What are those?" And Eric, who is an extremely experienced and proficient hunter, said that he had no idea what these things were. And he said, "Whatever they are, I don't know, but we have to get inside now."
Yeah.
The moment they decided that they needed to go inside, but before they could even make a movement, all 3 creatures started charging at Eric and Shelley.
No way!
Yep.
What?
Charging so fast that Shelley couldn't even keep her light on them. They were suddenly already halfway across the open field by the time they even saw them charging, which, as a reminder, is about 100 meters across. Eric and Shelley race inside, instantly lock the door, and they straight away run around the bottom floor of their house to lock the other doors, shut the windows, and close the blinds. Shelley and Eric thought that there was definitely something super bizarre about these 5 creatures and the way that they ran. They didn't run like wolves or any other animal that they knew of.
Right.
They were so fast as well. They didn't know of any other animal that ran this fast. This was just so terrifying for them that even after securing the house, they still didn't feel safe. Eric at this point starts thinking about his guns that are safely tucked away in the barn.
That's right.
And how he could get to them without having to go near or be seen by these creatures. Eric was saying to Shelley, "I want to get my guns. I want to protect my family."
Yeah.
And Shelley was basically just like, "No fucking way are you going out there or even leaving the house." Shelley then decides to go upstairs to close all the blinds and windows on the second story, as well as to go check on Chelsea. When in Chelsea's room, she wakes her up to tell her what's happening, and they both go to the window and slightly pull back the curtain, just the smallest bit, so that Chelsea can see these creatures outside the house. When Chelsea and Shelley peered out the window, they saw the 5 creatures sitting all in a perfect row on the gravel parking area that is situated right in front of the porch.
This is like making me sick. I have
Isn't it
no idea what's going on.
terrifying? I know. They're
It's
just
so intense.
they're so organized as well and still.
Yeah.
That's why it's so creepy.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Yeah, the way they're sitting in a line, like
and staring. Yeah, exactly. It was as if these creatures were just waiting for the family to come out. After looking at the creatures and seeing them just staring at the house, one of the 5 creatures broke its stare from the house and suddenly looked directly at Chelsea and Shelley through the smallest crack in the curtain.
Fuck no. Fuck no.
The creature, still while looking at the two, then stood up on its hind legs. Shelley said that on its hind legs, this creature was easily about 8 foot tall. And this was enough to absolutely scare the living shit out of Chelsea and Shelley.
Yeah, poo would be running down my legs at this point.
Running,
like,
literally running.
Okay, I have no idea what's going on. This is getting so scary.
It's a pretty scary story, yeah. So Shelley told Chelsea to return to her bed, and under no circumstances was she to leave her bed, especially not to get close to any windows or doors. But Shelley didn't do this. She remembered that her 2 dogs were somewhere either in the house or on the property. So she went looking for them as she was worried that they were outside with these creatures.
Oh, yeah, that would be so bad.
Oh, my God. Wouldn't your heart just drop
sick
into your stomach being like, they're out there with them. But, yeah, she did find her 2 dogs. Both of them were huddled together, shaking and whimpering in the corner of one of the upper story bedrooms. Okay. So they obviously could sense these creatures outside.
They've seen some shit there.
They've seen some shit. At the same time as this, Eric and Shelley were downstairs contemplating what they should do next. Eric really wanted to go get a gun from the shed, but this just wasn't possible considering the injury to his back and his slow pace, having to unlock the barn, then unlocking the safety case to his guns. He figured that something else he could do was go outside, get into his truck, back it up to the front of the house, and the rest of his family could get in and they'd escape.
Oh, okay. Yep.
Before executing his plan, he peered out a window and saw that all of the creatures were gone. He noticed that all the 5 creatures were back in the spot that they were originally seen in the field. And they were still all sitting in a row, just staring at the house.
So halfway across the field now?
Yeah, exactly.
Right, okay.
He thought that this was the time that he could run to his car as they were far enough away. So without telling Shelley, he opens the front door and tiptoes as quietly as he can towards his car, which is about 10 meters away, still constantly keeping watch of the creatures. While he's doing this, it seemed they haven't noticed him, so he just keeps quietly tiptoeing. He finally makes it to his car, but he's so nervous and his hands are shaking so much that he drops his keys to the ground.
I can imagine.
Eric, you dumb, what are you fucking doing? He straight away looks over to the creatures to see if they heard, and he noticed that again one of the creatures is now staring at him directly in the eye and standing on its hind legs. Before he can even pick up his keys, he notices the whole group once again running at incredible speeds, charging at him. He manages to just swipe and pick up his keys. He only just makes it to the house before he hears the group of creatures running on the gravel just outside the porch.
No, not the gravel.
He just, I know, oh God, the adrenaline. He just makes it into the house and slams the door when he hears what sounds like paws and nails scratching on the wood of the porch, and he hears them circling the home on the wraparound veranda. Frozen in fear for some time in the house, he eventually musters up the courage to peer out the window, and he again sees the creatures just sitting in a line on the gravel area, staring at the house. The next step for the Martins was to call the police.
Yeah.
They didn't know what else to do. Though the call to the police didn't really go as planned, as the cops didn't take their call seriously and told them that what they were seeing was probably just a moose or a bear on the property.
Oh, fuck off. Oh,
Classic
God.
cops.
Yeah.
Because of the failed call to the police, they just decided to barricade themselves in the house, blocking all the doors and windows. They also decided to grab all the large knives they owned, as well as a wood axe, and they took all these weapons and locked themselves in one of the upstairs bedrooms to wait it out until sunrise.
Yeah.
When they had finished setting up camp in the upstairs bedroom, almost immediately they heard the group of creatures outside move from the gravel parking area where they were, still sitting and staring at the house, and they heard them walk onto the wooden porch.
Oh, no. Okay.
So they're active now.
Okay.
The family said that aside from the tapping and scraping of claws on the wood, they also heard these creatures clearly communicating with each other through yaps and little howls.
Oh, my God. Oh, my God.
What would you do? You're stuck in your house with these creatures just talking to each other.
Yeah, I don't even know. This is terrifying.
It sounded like these creatures were communicating with each other in an attempt to coordinate their movements around the house and on the porch. After a while of this, they heard the creatures stop walking around the porch, and instead they heard them jumping up onto the second story level where there was a type of platform outside the rooms.
Okay.
Being on this platform meant that you can peer into all the windows of the bedrooms.
Right.
And the family said that they would see these creatures attempting to peer through to see them in the windows, but the curtains would just block their view. So they were kind of seeing like the shadows of the creatures outside the windows, but the creatures...
This reminds me of Signs, when they're stuck in a house and the aliens are running around the house on the porch and shit, and they're trying to like
very similar.
get into the house.
Yeah, very
that's the
similar.
vibe, which stresses me out. That scene, so like it's all coming back.
Yeah, because that's kind of like a farmhouse as well.
Yes,
isolated
it totally
farmhouse.
is.
Yep.
Yeah.
So all night they heard the creatures walking around the house on the bottom and top levels, and they also heard them attempting to scratch at certain points on the house as if they were trying to make their way in. Luckily, after a whole night of this, the creatures didn't manage to enter the house.
Oh, thank God.
Thank fuck. Finally, the sun starts to rise and the creatures decide to abandon the house. The family wasn't quite comfortable leaving the room until a few hours after this.
Yeah.
But eventually, when they did feel safe enough, they ended up actually going outside the house to see what they could find. And what they found was evidence of huge creatures, ginormous paw prints from the mud and dirt with scratches all over the porch. Tufts of hair. What was most unnerving was that they could see where the creatures were trying to enter the house because there were deep shred marks on the walls and doors of the home. Yeah. And the front door had essentially been scratched apart.
Wow.
So this experience was so traumatic for the family that pretty much straight after this night they put their house on the market and left town.
Yeah.
There have been rumours around Maine for over 100 years that there are werewolves in the forest there. There's been many reports going back a long time of people seeing werewolves. So maybe this is what the family saw. Another family of werewolves that were perhaps territorial. This family, I'm pretty sure, appeared on like an Unsolved Mysteries or something like that. And there's interviews online, I think from Shelley, giving like detailed descriptions of what they experienced. So there's like a lot of stuff that they put out there explaining their experience. But what do you think? Do you think it was werewolves? Do you think it was bears and moose?
Like, it's so crazy because some parts of it I was like, oh, this sounds like Dogman, which I'm not a Dogman person. Like, I don't really look into that too much, but that's kind of the vibe I was getting just because of the size. Because I was wondering, oh, is this going to turn into like a Bigfoot encounter?
That's kind of what
I wasn't
it sounds like in the beginning when they're like in the forest and they hear like the footsteps next to them and
the nest that they made threw me off. Like that's very common for Bigfoot to make those nests. So that's where I was like, because it's pretty much like a Dogman is like half Bigfoot, half Dogman kind of thing. But then again, a werewolf, I mean, if that's something that's been seen, I mean, a Dogman and werewolf kind of is the same thing anyway.
Yeah, I guess so. And
8 feet tall?
8 feet
that
on their hind
huge.
legs. And there was definitely an element of like communication and
that's
intelligence as well.
Yeah, so there's a kind of like this whole supernatural element to it as well where that just, like there's no way this is just like a normal animal.
No.
Like all of them sitting in a line, being able to move really fast, communicating, like,
and
jumping onto the second floor.
Exactly.
Like,
acting like that in the first place, like that kind of behavior. I can't imagine just like regular wolves.
Not at all.
Just hunting a family.
Yeah. No, that doesn't happen. Yeah, like not at all. Like they were in their house.
They were in the house.
So why would they be trying to get in? That's never happened before.
No.
So I think I mean, if it's werewolves, that's pretty fucking cool.
Pretty cool. And
was it a full moon? Do we know?
Well, yes, there was a point which I didn't include in the story that the reason that they could keep on seeing the wolves in a line was because the moon was so big that it was because there's no lights around the house,
that's even scarier when there's a bright moon and you can see everything outside.
Exactly.
That is so terrifying.
And another really interesting point is that Eric was such a proficient and like he'd been hunting. He came from a long line of hunters, like his daddy and his daddy's daddy. You know, we're all hunters. So he was like, "This is not a wolf."
What happened if he shot one? Like, I wonder if that. I feel like that would have just made things worse. But like, I would have totally been the person to go out there with the gun and just start shooting and then made everything worse.
Well, you know what's interesting? There was a weird. They don't know exactly what it is. There was a weird dog animal thing that was shot in Maine. I don't know exactly what year, but there's photos of it online. And it's, I don't know if this is what they saw, but it's like a weird dog creature thing, almost like a chupacabra or something like that. Yeah, so there's weird shit happening around Maine.
No, I've never even, looked into that at all. That was so fucking scary.
How creepy is that story?
Yeah.
I
loved that. I loved that story. That was great. That was so good.
Watching a video while researching this story and I was like, this is a lot.
I'm scared. I've got to go to like a farmhouse for a wedding next weekend and now I'm like really scared.
Yeah, you might see a werewolf.
I hope so, and also I hope not.
Yeah, I hope you do, and you survive it.
It'll make things interesting. Holy shit. All right.
Well, a fantastic episode.
Oh, my God. Well, I don't even know what happened. There's like the weirdest stories.
Yeah, weird stories. Particularly creepy, this one, because even though...
Really creepy, both of them.
Yeah, your
really
one was
creepy.
very, very creepy, even though...
I know. What the hell? I thought it was going to be like a super fun, like lighthearted, that's weird. But then, I was like, this is fucking weird as. I hate it.
Yeah, definitely more creepy than fun.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's going to throw a lot of people off with like the pictures
And the
if they look
name
at
as
them at the
well.
start. Yeah, clown,
Fun.
that's funny.
Sounds like a good time.
Yeah, no, he's not.
Not.
Cool. Well, all right. I had a lot of fun.
Yep, me too. That was great.
Yeah, hope you guys enjoyed the episode. We want to thank our patrons as always. You guys are legends.
Our loves. Thank you so much for supporting us.
Yeah, and hope you guys all liked the episode. Let us know what you think, and we'll speak to you next week.
We'll speak to you then. Bye-bye.
Bye.
This episode of Spooky Mountain was created and recorded on land of the original custodians, the Gundungurra and Bidjigal people. We pay respects to the past, present, and emerging mob. My name is Jordi, and I'm a proud Gunya woman. Thank you for listening.